With Kevin Harvick's retirement, another driver from the most popular era in NASCAR's history is gone. And today, I thought we'd celebrate his career a little bit by looking back at the 10 best wins in his NASCAR Cup Series career. And number 10 is the 2003 race at the Brickyard. This was a race that, up to this point, was the who's who of events. Not only did it hold prestige at being in Indianapolis, but it also held prestige by the great winners that it crowned. Names like Elliott, Earnhardt, Gordon, all of these guys and more were all the best of the best in NASCAR history. So when a hotshot kid won his fourth career race there after a rough 2002, you can imagine how big a race like this would have been. And with it being the fourth win of his career, it was also the first time he would kiss the bricks, and so for the last time that it would happen for Richard Childress. In ninth is Richmond 2022, the second win in a row he had in 2022 in what looked to be a bit of a resurgence in an otherwise struggling year. And it looked like vintage Harvick. He got better and better as the day went on until finally he and the car were the best that they were at the very end. Holding off a hard-charging Chris Buescher, this would end up being his final career win, and what a great one it was. In eighth is his Spring Phoenix win in 2016. Harvick was at the peak of his Phoenix dominance at this time and the best that he ever was in a career span as a driver in general. And the same could be said when it came to his peak dominance in this race. He was clearly the best one out there, but late in the race there would be a caution. Harvick and a couple others would stay out and have a bit older tires, while there would be those with fresh tires behind them. Only 3 drivers had stayed out, including Harvick, and it looked like he was a sitting duck. And at the white flag, Carl Edwards was hot on pursuit, to which Harvick would barely beat him at the line in an amazing finish. Keeping it with the 4 at Phoenix, number 7 is the 2014 Fall Phoenix race. This was the penultimate race of the inaugural Elimination Chase season. Harvick had prior troubles, and due to the strength of the field as well as that, he needed basically to win his way in to the Final 4 in this season. And Harvick, over the course of what ended up being actually a pretty action-packed afternoon, would manage to do that and solidify himself to contend for what would be his first championship. And number 6 is his win at the Auto Club Speedway in 2011. The year before, Harvick and RCR in general were in position to win this race, but due to a good timed caution for Jimmie Johnson, he managed to get out in front of the RCR duo and win it. And it would prompt Kevin Harvick to have one of his best quotes in his career, saying that Jimmie Johnson and his team had a golden horseshoe up their ass. Well, in this race, it ended up being 3 guys at the finish. A dominant Kyle Busch, a hard-charging Jimmie Johnson, and the closer in Kevin Harvick. And with it, both the 48 and 29 would get past the 18, and on the last lap, it would all be up to Harvick to get past Johnson. Entering the top 5, we have his Talladega win in 2010. This, according to lead changes, was the most competitive race in NASCAR history. It was a perfect mix of the pack, which was still pretty prevalent, as well as the new 2-car tandem that was made very prevalent the year before with Brad Keselowski and Carl Edwards, and was more able to be done now with the COT car as well as with the repaved Talladega. This race would be the longest Talladega race ever at 200 laps, and was the first race ever to get 3 green-white checkers. It was the 29 versus the 1 on the last lap, and in the tri-oval, Harvick would make a bonsai hell of a move underneath McMurray to nab the win in a photo finish. And number 4 is the 2011 Coke 600. Look away now, Dale Jr. fans, it's gonna get rough, because this would be Harvick's first 600 win in amazing fashion. And it was another crown jewel in what was becoming a lot of those actually on Harvick's mantle. On a late restart in overtime, a lot of guys up front had ran out of fuel, and there was a bit of a scuffle. Out front, there was Dale Earnhardt Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick. And it looked like at the white flag, the 88 car was going to bring the National Guard to victory lane. But down the backstretch, both Earnhardt and Hamlin ran out of fuel, and coming off the corner, Harvick would have one of his most iconic victories.
And as at Indy, the leader at turn 4 does not get to the flag. Harvick, the closer, wins it.
Third on the podium is Kevin Harvick's lone Daytona 500 win in 2007. This was honestly a race that had 2 races inside them. The first 2/3 or so was a very spread out race, and it was just about keeping up with the pack. Make sure you're on the lead lap and stay in contention with handling to be able to be in contention to win the race later. The final third was all about survival. It was a race that had plenty of wrecks and a green-white checker finish, and on that green-white checker, he was all the way back in the back half of the top 10 and would have to go up through the pack in a bit of a comeback to end up dueling Mark Martin for the victory. And once again, he would have a photo finish. And runner-up is his win in the 2014 season finale at the Homestead Miami Speedway. While this would probably be the #1 win for many drivers in their career, honestly, Harvick has had so much importance to the sport, it's number 2, and I'll explain in a bit. But this race was huge. It was the first time that any Final Four race was used to decide a champion as the new format was implemented in 2014. And he was up front for much of the day. He wasn't necessarily the most dominant car, that would probably go to Jeff Gordon, but when it mattered most, he would be dueling none other than a winless Ryan Newman for the championship. Harvick would be able to hold him off and win his first ever Cup championship. Now, before we get to #1, be sure to watch the NASCAR Weekly Podcast tonight on Eric Estep's channel. It's our season finale, and it's going to be a hell of a show. Can't wait to see you there at 8 p.m. Eastern. And #1, we have his first win, the 2001 win at Atlanta in the spring. This race, in general, would have been on the list no matter what the circumstances were, with it being his first win. But for a young rookie like Harvick to be thrown into such a situation makes this one so much more special. It was only his 3rd career start and 3 races after the death of Dale Earnhardt. And at this point, Harvick honestly was just expected to ride around out there. He was not expected to go out and win every race. But in this race, at the end of it, he was locked in an insane duel for the victory. A 5-car battle with Jeff Gordon, Jerry Nadeau, Dale Jarrett, and Dale Jr. But over the course of the final laps, it whittled down to just 2. Harvick and Gordon, the rival for the last half-decade of Dale Earnhardt and the guy who bested this team many times. The battle would be a head-to-head one, and at the finish, it would be a photo finish at that, reminiscent and eerily similar to Dale Earnhardt's win there a year ago over Bobby Labonte. This win is #1, not only for what it did for Harvick's career, basically saying that he was there and solidifying his place in the Cup Series, but also for the healing that it did for NASCAR and the sport in general after a tragic opening to the season. Now with that, I'm going to pass it on to you and ask, what are your favorite Kevin Harvick moments? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more great NASCAR content throughout the offseason. Thank you so much to my channel members for your continued support. And remember, tonight, the NWP on Eric Estep's channel at 8 p.m. Eastern. So, until then, have a good one.